Then let me officially welcome everyone in the name of the FIM board present here today, Akaki, Grazie, and Ramas Bochorishvili, also Miranda, who you just saw. And I would like to officially welcome all of you attending here or later listening to the video. And it's a special honor to welcome my good friend, Professor Seko from the University of Toronto. Professor Seko is Professor of Mathematics at the University of Toronto. He's also holding the chair of the Center of Sustainable Development at the Fields Institute. He's the director of Risk Lab at the University of Toronto and has many, many other tasks. He's famous for being a great lecturer, researcher, and doing many things, especially also up today in his research center at the Risk Lab in not only sustainable development, but also AI, large language models, and many other things. So I think there's probably no chance to find someone better and more designated to the topic he's addressing today. So Luis, I pass on to you. For all who are here, the plan for today is that Luis Seko will give us an insight into how the world changes the investment business, and then I will give you an overview on our program, which addresses all these questions and educating you to be ready for our new world, including AI, with the FIM program at KIU. So, Luis, the floor is yours. Thank you very much for being with us today, and we all cannot wait to hear what you have to say.
Well, I hope not to disappoint. We live in very unique times. Artificial intelligence is changing everything we do, is changing our daily lives. It's going to change our daily lives even more in the days, months, years to come. And my objective today is to give my own perspective on how that is affecting the investment sector and how investment is going to, in my opinion, be disrupted by that. I want to start with an introspective, maybe a comparison between how the 20th century worked and how I see the 21st century working because of AI and everything that's surrounding us. I like to perhaps focus or identify the 20th century by one of its greatest accomplishments, which is going to the moon. If you reflect on that big feat of the 20th century, you would see that going to the moon was an exercise that required very little data, lots of equations. NASA spent lots of time doing computer programs. In Fortran, the first computers were used to solve the equations so that the Apollo mission would succeed going to the moon. And there was a combination of lots of equations, lots of mathematics, lots of engineering, lots of physics, lots of chemistry, all expressed in the world of equations that the 20th century has been fantastic at developing, and all coupled with just very small amounts of data. You know, the gravity, the density of air, and just really very few other data variables. And all of that was done in physical space. So physical space has been the framework in which everything happened. The 20th century can be characterized from an innovation perspective by that. The 21st century is going to be very different. The 21st century is going to be a century where we're surrounded by data. There's data everywhere, big data, small data, data everywhere. And it's an area, what I want to say is very controversial, but I'm going to venture to say that no equations. We're going to have a century where equations are going to be very limited. Our ability to understand our environment through data is making a lot of the equations that we use probably not very useful. Okay. And perhaps more important than that is the fact that the big innovations, the big developments that will happen will be in mental space, not in physical space. So that would be, it's very important to understand that the 21st century, what we're living through is very different from the 20th century. And it's not a good idea to use the 20th century as a predictor of what's going to happen in the future. Things will be very different. When it comes to investing, I want to let me focus a little bit on what investing will be when we are surrounded by this type of artificial intelligence reality. And I want to focus on three key aspects of investing. Why we invest, because that's changing too. How we invest and what we invest in. All of these things are being disrupted by AI. And I want to start with why. One of the key changes that we see on why we invest is the impact of social trends. I have two examples here to explain this, and I don't know if the audience is familiar with this, but I will explain. One of these issues is what is called the ESG trend. ESG stands for environment or environmental, social, government. When making investments, more and more investors are taking into account environmental concerns, social concerns, and governance concerns. This is very new. There's a lot of controversy. There's a lot of talk about whether this is good or this is bad. Even the fact that this is a discussion means that there's a focus on this. Investors are now considering a much richer set of characteristics when deciding where to invest, why to invest, where to put their money. I'll say more about this in a minute. But even if you don't agree with this, you will agree with my second example. This is something that happened a few years ago, 2021, and it's a very famous case of GameStop. GameStop, what happened, I'll explain in a minute, it had a very small impact in terms of dollars, but it's a very good reflection of what I'm talking about. And my presentation, my discussion on ESG is completely analog to my discussion on GameStop. So GameStop was a company, it's an American company that was the subject of a very unique investment experience. It was published that one hedge fund was taking a short position on GameStop. GameStop is a company that essentially creates games, computer games, and most of its clientele are teenagers in the United States. Teenagers that go to GameStop, they buy games and they play with those games. For some reason, it's been very much discussed. I'm not going to get into the ins and outs of that event, but one investor, one hedge fund, decided that the value of GameStop was too high, that GameStop had no online plans for expansion, and a computer merchandise company without an online plan was not going to do very well. So they decided to short GameStop. Short means you take a negative position on the company, essentially. This got to be known to those millions of teenagers that were customers of GameStop, to whom GameStop was their everyday shopping store. That's what they liked. And they did not, they felt very fiercely against that thesis. They had their own view on GameStop, which perhaps was not driven by finance, was driven by sentiment. So they decided to collectively buy shares in GameStop. The company increased in value by 4 times. That short trade became a very bad trade. This company lost a lot of money. And this was an act of rebellion from this group of teenagers that collectively amounted to not very much money, but they gave rise to one of the most prominent events in investing in recent history. So I want to claim that both things are part of the same reality that is affecting why people invest. You may agree or disagree with ESG. You may agree or disagree with GameStop, but what you cannot disagree with is that social trends and other considerations are becoming far more relevant than ever before. Okay, so this is something which is changing, and I will say more about this because this is an area that's going to be fueled by AI. AI will make the social trend very vital and very relevant in the investment sector, much more than they have been in the past. When according to what you invest in, that is changing too. It's going to change in terms of the sectors you invest in. It's going to change in terms of the geographies that you invest in. In the 20th century, we have been used to investing in mostly American companies. The American stock markets have become the place to go. Every company wanted to be listed in the New York Stock Exchange. But now we see that things are changing. For example, we are perhaps around the corner from a huge discovery, one of the biggest discoveries of humanity, which could be, for example, let's imagine a company is able to come up finally with free unlimited energy. Okay, this is something which it was unthinkable 50 years ago, but now it could be a reality. If that happens, that's going to change everything. It's going to change for sure our lives, but also it's going to change what we consider to be a good investment. So many of the investments that we have now are predicated on energy being key, valuable, and being a very important input into companies' operations. So this could be very disruptive. But let me tell you, let's just hypothesize that this will happen in China. Imagine that is a Chinese company that comes up with unlimited free energy. This is not, I'm going to say this is likely or even, but it's possible. Imagine that is to happen. That will change the way we look at investments everywhere. So what we invest in is likely to be disrupted. And of course, how we invest is going to be also heavily impacted by AI. The arrival of large language models is something which is changing the way we invest. Large language models are things such as ChatGPT. These are machines that that are able to process text very quickly and do things with text just like humans do. Understand it, derive conclusions, and synthesize large amounts of information into very specific data points that enable you to take action. But you will see that on the screen I wrote LMMs, not LLMs. It's not a typo. LMMs is the new thing that's coming after LLMs. Is large multimodal models. These are models that not only can use numbers and text like large language models, but they can use other things such as sensor data, videos, images. These are very rich AI-driven models that can take a variety of information into it. So our decision-making is going to be greatly impacted by a very rich, very large amount of data. So this is going to change our inputs. And if our inputs are changed, for sure, our outputs are going to be changed. And the processes that we follow are also going to be changed. Today, in a few minutes, I will be talking about causality, okay, and how our understanding of what implies what is something which is going to change the way we invest. And this is one of the big advances that AI is doing today. And that's going to change the timelines. We're going to be very likely moving into a timeline situation where everything happens instantaneously, and that's going to have a tremendous effect on what we do. Now, just to perhaps prove my point or give you some historical perspective of what I'm talking about, I'm not crazy. What I'm telling you is something that is happening already. But let me go back 100 years and look at how investing was 100 years ago. So 100 years ago, say 1930, we did not even yet have appropriate accounting information. That was actually introduced around that time, 1933 to be precise, okay? So imagine investing in a world without accounting. You cannot trust the number. You cannot trust a financial statement of a company. Investing was a very, how can I say, a difficult, even dangerous game because you were essentially without trusted data. That changed. The United States Investor Advisors Act of 1933 made all of these things real in the sense that they can be trusted. Accounting is very old, don't get me wrong. Accounting has been around for 5,000 years, almost as long as the city of Kutaisi. But trusted accounting that has been part of the investment process is very recent. It started only about 100 years ago. And by the way, the accounting then was done with pencil and paper, no computers. We had no computers at that time, not even calculators. We had Pascal machines, but essentially everything was done by hand 100 years ago. Around 1950, something remarkable happened. The computers were introduced. Very rudimentary, very primitive, not used in everyday life, and of course limited to perhaps one per institution, not one per person. And when computers were introduced, something important happened, which is portfolio theory. What today we call portfolio theory was introduced. Portfolio theory, in a theoretical sense, could have been introduced 200 years ago. But why would you if you didn't have the technology to implement it? That's why portfolio theory saw this great success in 1950, and that's because we had computers. So you see, technology has a tremendous role in the development of actions, and in this case, investment actions. You fast forward to the year 2000. The year 2000, for me, is the year in which there was not one computer per institution, but one computer per person. When you have a computer per person, then everything changes again, because now everybody can have their own numerical method. Everybody can have their own investment thesis. Everybody can have their own approach to investing. So suddenly investing is democratized in the sense that everybody has access to that. And what we saw in the year 2000 is a plethora of numerical methods to do investing. Everybody had their way. Now, in 2020, something remarkable happened, which is that computers evolve to the point that artificial intelligence, as we know it today, happened. And the key to that was our ability to process large amounts of data so that things such as news, social posts in social media, anything on the web, documents, filing, disclosure statements, audit reports, all of that massive amount of information is now data that computers can process textually and then take action. And this is what AI really is all about. And of course, from that perspective is when ESG and GameStop become just examples of what is to come. Okay, so if you now look at the last 100 years, I hope you're convinced that what I told you earlier that is changing is actually a very likely scenario. Okay. So let me talk a little bit about social trends, which is the why we invest. I will say that social trends are the new momentum trades. Momentum trade, in case you don't know, is something that investors have always been aware of. And the idea is you invest in things that people like, and you divest from things that people don't like. In a certain sense, it doesn't matter what you think, because the value of your investments are predicated on what the other investors think about it. You can be a lonely investor in a company. If everybody else disagrees with you, everybody thinks that this company is not good, the product is not good, then you're doomed to failure. So investing has always been a social act, but now it's going to be much more social than before because of the ability that AI gives us to understand social trends. And for that, data plays a key role. People say that data is the new oil. That analogy is very, very relevant. You could say that oil represents very well the 20th century. Oil has fueled the evolution in the 20th century. The 21st century will be fueled by data. It's what I said earlier, and in this context, it makes perfect sense. And when it comes to investing, traditional data sources are being replaced by unstructured, large, complex data sources. Traditionally, we had numbers. When people talk about data, they typically refer to numbers. And there, of course, Bloomberg has been the provider, the main provider of data. And every investor needs access to a Bloomberg. Otherwise, they are blind and they cannot make proper decisions. But now that's changing. With textual data, we have access to additional resources that can help our decision making. Reddit is actually the right data source if you want to understand GameStop. If you want to understand other investments, it's very hard to do without Twitter or X or news, whether it's traditional media, new media, whether it's CNN or the New York Times. All of that data is now important. And a very important act of investing was everybody read the newspaper in the morning. That's not enough. Newspapers report a very small fraction of the available data. You have to read larger and larger data sources. And this is something that computers can do. So this is something which is also being enabled. But now we are in a situation where sensor data is actually affecting also our consumption of data. And companies like Bosch, for example, are producers of sensor data that is slowly finding its way into making investment decisions. It used to be, I mean, I have a very funny example that I like to talk about, a viral company that Warren Buffett made very famous, Krispy Kremes. The way investors invested in Krispy Kremes was they went to a Krispy Kreme store. You may not know what they are. They were very famous in the United States. And Krispy Kreme stores were donut stores. They did donuts. And they were typically in the middle of nowhere, a shopping mall. And cars would just go there to buy these donuts. Very sweet, very expensive, very greasy, but they loved it. Everybody loved them. And it was a stock made famous by Warren Buffett. What investors did is they went to their cars and they sat there just counting how many people were coming to buy Krispy Kremes. And then from those numbers, they were able to make investment decisions. They saw how popular they were able to calculate their expected cash flows and then make decisions. Well, forget about that. Now you can do that with drones, sometimes with satellite images, and all of that is going to give us tremendous amounts of data that we can use to make very good decisions. And this is the reality. This is happening right now. And there are companies that have them on the screen whose job is actually to produce these things. And investors are slowly starting to use this data to make decisions. I have here an example. This is an example of a chart produced by one of my former students who runs a company called Sibley. This is the way you can do real-time large language model analysis. This is a way to get consumer sentiment analysis, essentially, on company information. So the way this works, and this works in a second, you pick a company, and what you get is an analysis over time, over a period of as many years as you want, of what the news said about this company, analyzed, interpreted, and classified in terms of impact on health, impact on ethics, impact on whatever you want. Cases of corruption, cases of illegal behavior, all of that is mapped out to you by a computer in no time. So you can see the trends, you can see what's happening. And this type of data this is new. You couldn't do this before. You had to rely on people with experience that had been in the market for a long time and their memory. Well, that's finished. You can have this analysis done on a computer in real time. Okay. And now, when it comes to what I want to focus on, one aspect of this is what people invest. And I want to contend that sustainability is the new .com. .com, as you know, was the thing to invest in the year 2000. People that were very skeptical about that, they were proved wrong. People thought that a company like Google could not be worth anything because, after all, who cares about searching for a website. It's good, it's convenient, but why would this company be worth anything? Investors were saying those things back then. Now look at the result. The 5 largest companies in the United States today are the companies that were .coms back in the year 2000. So fast forward into the year 2040, I contend that a lot of those companies are arising from what's called the sustainability innovation landscape. So what I have here in front of you is the 17 Sustainable Development Goals of the United Nations. No poverty, zero hunger, good health, quality education, gender equality, and all of that. You can read through that, and you already know this. You may be wondering, what does this have to do with investing? This is something which has to do with, being good to each other and having a prosperous world. My point is that these are the things that 193 countries have said they are important. So advances in these areas will have tremendous impact, and that impact will have value. And if they have value, this is what investors should be looking into. Okay, I gave you earlier the example of it. If a company produces free, unlimited, of course, clean energy, if that happens, that will be the best investment. That is the analogy with the .com revolution. That's why investors more and more are focusing on sustainability as the objective. Because a few years from now, it's a hypothesis, the 5 largest companies in the world will be companies that arise out of this sustainability agenda. Okay, you can agree or disagree, but the fact is that if you have a way of redefining health using AI, for example, if you have a way of producing free unlimited energy, or you have a way to, for example, producing new insurance companies based on natural disasters, which are likely going to come because of climate change, that will change the insurance sector, that will change the health sector, that will change the energy sector. Just that. And this is only 3 of the targets. Okay, you can continue. And that means that focusing on what you invest in is going to have a tremendous impact. And of course, if that's what you're going to do, your methodology will be impacted too. You cannot invest in these things with methodologies from the 20th century. You can't. It's not going to work. You need methodologies from the 21st century, and you need to be an expert on the use of AI, an expert on the analysis of social trend, and everything else that comes with that. Machine learning is going to be your friend. And there's a number of metrics, very sophisticated metrics that have been created that humans use. This is not something that only computers use. Humans have to understand them. They have to understand what correlation distance is. They have to understand classification trees. They have to understand regression trees, and they have to understand causal dependence. This is a big advancement of what's happening now, and that's where I want to talk about briefly, and I will end my talk with this discussion. Causal versus association logic. This is one area where AI will help us tremendously to make changes. To understand what that is, let me give you 2 examples, very simple examples. Let's forget about investing. This is about decision making. Imagine that you're sick. Should you go to the hospital? Of course, everybody knows that if you're sick, you have to go to the hospital. But let me give you a piece of data. Let me tell you that I give you a time series and say, most of the people that died, they were in the hospital. The correlation between going to the hospital and dying is very high. Then maybe you think, then maybe you should not go to the hospital. Maybe going to the hospital is what killed you, right? Of course, we know that's not true. But if you act from association logic, if you say, went to the hospital and died, so many people went to the hospital and died. In fact, no one died without going to the hospital. Imagine that, right? Then you may be convinced that going to the hospital is bad for your health, right? That's association logic. And of course, it's wrong. If you're sick, please go to the hospital. Okay, we know that. I'll give you another example. This is by my friend Marcos Lopez de Prado. It's a great example. If you do the analysis, you will see that there's a very high correlation between ice cream sales and people drowning in the ocean or in the Black Sea, right? You may be prompted to think, well, if I don't want people to drown, maybe I should outlaw ice cream sales. Ice cream is illegal, it's killing people. Well, we also know that's not true. What is killing people during the ocean is that it's very warm and they go into the ocean, right? So there's a factor called summer that makes people drown, not a factor called ice cream that makes people drown. So these are the differences between causal and association logic, right? So outlawing ice cream to prevent drowning, bad idea. So all of that is part of what causal inference is. What I have here is a typical causal graph. There are certain factors that affect other factors, and understanding this relationship is key to making decisions. And this is something which is very hard to do in practice because we have hundreds, maybe thousands of factors. So to do this by humans is very hard, but computers can do it. Okay, I have here some of the notation for when you have a causal graph: mediators, colliders, ancestors, descendants. I'm not going to go through that, but this is something which is useful when it comes to making decisions. And this is something that, frankly, you can only do with AI, what's called causal AI, where you understand what causes what. This is done through the creation of feature variables, which are represented by directed acyclic graphs. These are graphs that imply, this implies that, and then that gives you the whole thing. These are done using typically establishing relationships, which you can use large language models for, okay? GPT-4, for example, okay? And then you do feature cluster engineering. This is important. I'm not going to talk about this, but to be truthful to what I'm saying, and not to oversimplify what I'm saying, there is an aspect of feature cluster engineering that has to be done. Today, I'm not going to address it, but it's very important to understand that now making decisions is no longer just looking at numbers and see how they move together. You have to understand what causes what. Logic. You need to bring logic into the investment process. Causal logic. And the only way to do that in practice is you have to train computers to do that. But the computers are very good at that if you give them the right huge textual database information. Okay, so this is something that we do. There's a process for that involves causal exploration, another one which is causal inference. I have it here. I'm not going to go through the details of this, but I want you to know that this is something which is very important, and we can train computers to do that for us. And then finally, we have causal validation, and then we know what implies what, and then say, you know what, I better be careful. Shorting GameStop was perhaps not a good idea, or investing in this a company which has ESG scores is perhaps the right thing to do because of all these humans around me who are going to want to invest in that company. So I should take that into account. There's additional technical topics. I just want you to know there's you have to do this. You have to do cluster inference. You have to understand how features are clustered into different things, how clustering play each other, and what's inside of that cluster. This is causal logic, and computers can be trained to do that. This is what investing in the age of AI is. If you have used ChatGPT, I have here an example of a prompt that you use to get these causal relationships. So if you have, say, 100 factors, you're going to have to do many of these prompt engineering exercises. And today they're still done by humans. Okay, so you have to do maybe 1,000 of these. You get together in teams and then just get the right prompt engineering to understand what your causal graph is. So causal graphs are not done by magic, not yet. Okay, maybe soon all of these things can be done in an automated fashion, but prompt engineering is something that can be done like that. And the result is something like this. It's a causal graph that tells you what implies what, and you know that you tweak something here, something will happen here. And that gives you so much power, so that when you make investment decisions, you know what implies what. Some of these factors that I have here are very, they're here just to show you that, what the causal graph looks like, to show you the topology of that. And this drives decision making. And just to end, this is the way that investing in the age of AI, in my opinion, would look like. Thank you very much.
So thank you, Luis. My proposal is that if you have questions, please put them in the chat. Miranda can read them after we are done, and then I'm sure Luis will be happy to answer the questions. So just to stay in time, let me just continue with the second part of the presentation, which is studying in the age of AI. I would like to briefly, let's see, I have to put the presentation mode. Okay, can you see it?
Yes.
Yes, okay, perfect. So I would like to extend on what Luis was saying, that that AI is completely rewriting the financial world. Algorithmic trading, just to give you an example, now accounts for more than 60% of the market volume of trading in Europe, Asia, and the US. AI is powering whatever we do, risk modeling, fraud detection, as you could already see, investment management, and much more. And AI can do things much better and much faster than human being could do. Summary of information, collecting of information, processing of information. AI can do it so much faster so that today we can have real-time analytics and predictive modeling, which we could not do in the past. And you already got mentioned LLMs. And I just have to hear LLMs. LLMs like ChatGPT. You can analyze, summarize, explain things much faster than ever. Summarize documents. You can use AI for professionals to help navigate text. You can collect news. You can use so many things which you could not have done in the past. Finance, and in finance, time is money. So you could also say that large language models, they turn hours or days of reading into minutes of insight. They help professionals to navigate through a lot of data, through text, through market news, and it helps finance professionals to understand data much better than before. But that also means that financial professionals have to understand how these models work, where they can fail, and how they use them responsibly. Okay, so I just have a little bit of a problem to continue with the slides. Finance professionals need to interpret these models, and they need to interpret models now and not just balance sheets. So you have to understand these models. You need knowledge about data science and machine learning, and that's becoming essential because data and models are now in the center of everything. As Luis mentioned, data is the new oil in the future we are going to. So we have to understand data, and we have to use machines to understand the data, which means we have to understand what the machines are doing, and also what the risk is of using it and what the advantage is of using it. In other words, AI will not replace finance professionals, but the ones who use AI will replace those who don't. So you have to use AI. You have to equip yourself with the tools and insights to stay ahead. And FIM is created as your gateway to the future, as your gateway and your tools to stay ahead of what is happening right now. We created this program to build for the AI-driven economy, to prepare you. Special things of FIM are that this program is interdisciplinary. We do merge, as the world is doing, finance, computer science, data analytics, management. So we bring all these together. FIM builds an understanding of digital technologies and their impact they have to the economy. What we do is we emphasize on project-based learning. Teamwork is a key asset we do have at the FIM program. We would like to solve real-world and data-driven problems to weapon you for your future job. We focus on real-world applications, and we use cutting-edge tools to prepare you best possible to the task which will wait for you when you enter or when you work in the financial industry. Our goal is to make you future ready, to prepare our students for their careers, which might be anywhere where data and finance is used, maybe banking, consulting, analytics, fintech, and much more. So having said this, studying in the age of AI does not mean that you will be replaced by machines. It means that you have to learn to work with them to build better solutions. And the world of building better solutions using AI is very, very rich. So the final goal we have at FIM is we want to produce competitive specialists in the field, combining finance and information management. We would like to help you to enhance your expertise in digital technologies, handling big data, integrate technology, and also entrepreneurship. What we combine is, and what we have as core competences at FIM is 3 different areas as we define them. It's quantitative finance, financial management, and information management. And the colors we are using here, you will see on the next slides. So everything in blue refers to quant finance, yellow financial management, and green in information management. And you can see various lectures which are already posted here, but they're coming up again. But what we do is we cover things, of course, like data analytics, machine learning, blockchains, and their applications to finance. If you want to study FIM, the program is set up in 4 semesters. Each semester you have to collect 30 credits. This lasts over the first 3 semesters where you do courses, and then in the 4th semester you do your master thesis. The overview on some of the courses, which you can see here, is that the idea of FIM is to combine people with different knowledge, to combine people which come from different areas, may it be mathematics, may it be computer science, may it be economics, or other fields, and you come with a core competence in one of these areas, and we would like to educate you with a broad education so that you get a basic understanding of all the other areas as they merge today and in the future. You cannot do a project which is only finance. You will not be able to do a project which is only data science. Those things merge, and you have to have a basic understanding of all of them. So what you will get is in 2 compulsory modules, a hands-on training where you can catch up with things which you will need in the other lectures. So that will bring all of you on a level for general understanding of the different areas in blue, yellow, and green. And then in the 1st semester, you get basic courses in these areas, in quant finance, information management, in financial management. And you can see and read the courses which we have there. After these courses where you get a broad understanding of individual areas and a combination of these, in the 3rd semester, there is a choice of different courses you can specify. We will choose different things which we think are hot topics, and there you can specify on the area which you like most. I would also like to emphasize on something which makes FIM special, and that's the honors certificate. We believe that our students should not only learn in the lectures, we also would like to develop them as human beings and their capacities with respect to soft skills. There's a 5-day soft skill seminar which we do with the students. They should learn teamwork. They should learn presentation techniques. So we try to develop them, and to the feedback from our corporate partners, this works in an exponential way. So they tell us that looking at the students when they start, looking at the students when they end, is an exponential personal development. Our students in the honors certificate also do a research project, most of the time combined with a master thesis. So at the end, they did successfully do their own project. And of course, the industry, all the universities like it because usually you have your first paper written, that's assigned for the university, and you finished successfully an own project over a longer period of time, which is a very good signal to the industry that you can do project management. So that's a rough overview on the courses which we have. A general goal we also have at FIM is bridging the gap. Bridging the gap between universities, companies, and our talents. This has a big advantage. The universities can learn from the companies about practical problems, which are usually very interesting research topics, where we as a researcher and our students as coming up researchers and employees can work on interesting problems, real-world applications, and solve them. But also for the companies who work with us, this is very interesting. They get access to a wide talent pool of very intelligent and highly educated students, but they also get access to the universities. They can extend their research capabilities and most of the time can get access to innovations. And for the students, this is a great opportunity. I mean, they can learn way beyond what they can learn in the classroom. They can see what research is all about, and they can get first experience doing this and see if they want to develop new things in the future. And they have outstanding working opportunities through the context to the industry. FIM is not just invented today. FIM has a long history. I'm the co-founder of the FIM program at TU in Munich, working together with the University of Bayreuth. And we started with that program in 2004. In 2004, we were convinced that the areas of finance and data science and computer science will merge. No project will be possible in the future without thinking and taking care about data, and no data project will be possible without thinking about finance. So these areas merge. That was our idea. So we had the goal to develop a program to educate the future leaders of these areas, so the managers of the future. And we did not only want this, we wanted to educate the responsible leaders of the future. That's why we added the soft skill trainings. That's why our students also do a social project. So many things which make our students being the fast and highest hunted students in Germany. We, of course, take place in the ratings. There's a CHE ranking, which is done since 2008. And FIM was number 1, 5 green points in all of these ratings, and is the best program in economics we have in Germany. So that was when KIU had the idea to establish a program also at KIU, linking the areas which are represented by the departments and schools at KIU, which is mathematics, computer science, and economics, or the School of Finance. So these are the ingredients. If you are a bachelor student of any of these areas, or you are in the industry and you want to extend your knowledge in one of these areas, that is what we offer. We prepare you for the future. We open doors and we educate you for the future as it appears, combining and merging data, finance, and many other things. Now, having said this, the industry is very open and headhunting our students. And I give you the experience from Munich. Students are usually having jobs before they finish, and they have jobs in all of the sectors you can read here. Maybe consulting, maybe banking, maybe asset management, maybe startups, fintechs, you name it. Whenever there is data, whenever there is finance questions, they are happy to take our students. And many of our students also found their own companies. We do have these entrepreneurship components in the program so that you can also learn how to found your own company if you are wanting and willing to do so. I can tell you a lot of things. Of course, I'm biased. I'm the head of the program, and so are Professor Ramas and Akaki. Of course, we would tell you that this program is best. And I try to convince you also by the history of our FIM program in Munich. But it's always better to ask the people who are either professors in the program, but also have a look at the program from the outside, or ask our students themselves. So that is what we will do now. We do have Luis Secker with us. I do have a statement of Luis here, but Luis, maybe you want to say something yourself. How do you like the program? How do you find the students in the program, and how do you think about the future?
I love the program. I love the students. I love the university. This is a very novel approach to something that is happening in the main centers in the world. What I said here, I really mean it. We live in times of change, and to adapt to that change, you need education. This is what we're doing. This is practical education that will help all participants thrive in the new realities which AI is creating for us today.
So thank you, Luis. I also asked Professor Christian Schmidt for a statement. Christian is also teaching in the program, and I'm just reading you from him what he said. So we live in a VUCA world that is characterized by volatility, the V, uncertainty, the U, complexity, the C, and ambiguity, the A. So that's a VUCA world. The optimal combination of financial knowledge, IT technology, and data science enables graduates of the FIM program to react on these changes with the very latest state-of-the-art knowledge and play a decisive role in shaping the future of the financial world. So thank you, Christian, for that statement. And that's been two of our famous professors teaching in the program. And of course, we would also like to have the opinion from our students. So I know that Lana was in another meeting. I hope she's already back. Lana, are you there?
Yeah, Professor, hello. I'm currently at some event from master degree. I was invited on National Bank of Georgia. Today is the 30th year of Georgian Lari. So there is one event, and I was invited actually from FIM course. Yeah. So thank you for invitation, and I will shortly tell about myself. I am Lana Chanturidze, currently working at PepsiCo International, and at the same time, I'm also the student on FIM. So I want to say that if you are the person who wants to work at the same time and also study the and get the education, which will be the modern and the future profession, I strongly recommend this to be your main direction of learning. So guys, the programming and data and finance is main part of the businesses. So if you really want to be a good manager and the professional of future, I really recommend to be on this course, especially when we have opportunity to have such a great lecturers from abroad, especially from the German and Canada. Thank you.
Okay, thank you, Lana. And Lana's opinion is not alone. We also have Surabi, another FIM student, with us today. So Surabi, would you like to share your experiences with FIM and tell the people if you're happy or how you think?
Oh, hello everyone again, and I'm very pleased to see such many faces, many people here. And as it's written here, I'm really pleased to be a FIM student because there are lots of benefits, as Lana mentioned. I'm currently working as audit staff at UI Georgia, so basically combining work and university. So FIM helps very much in this case, and so I'm very interested in finances and in investment banking. So basically, Professor Lewis and Professor Rudy, these both subjects they teach us in the previous semester and in current semester. this subject helps us to basically gain more financial knowledge, not only just Professor mentioned financial accounting, which is 5,000 years old, but basically more modern knowledge around the finance field. So basically, that's why it's really useful to study on this program for me, at least. Thank you.
Good, thank you, Surabi. So of course, we as professors are very happy if the students tell us that they love us, but I must say we also love our students. The interrelation we have with our students and working together in small groups makes it very intensive and productive. And it's a lot of fun working together, sharing what we have as an experience as researchers with our students and helping them to shape their future. Good. So this is the board of FIM. If you have any questions, you can always address us. We had Professor Kaki with us. He had to go to another meeting, but he is at KIU representing the School of Management. And we do have Professor Ramas, who is with us today. He also, so thank you, Ramas, for staying with us. Representing the math faculty and also the computer science faculty. And you have me with you to ask any questions you want. If you have specific questions, how to apply, what can I do to get into the program, tips on what you should do and what you can do, anything where you need help to get to the program, making you happy and ready for the future. Miranda Cavazzi is there, a wonderful person to help you with any kind of tips and tell you how to apply. So that was everything for today. If you feel that you would like to combine the fields of quantitative finance, information management, and financial management, if you are coming from one of these or related areas and you would like to extend your horizon, you would like to make yourself ready for the future, and you are ready to do team working, have fun working together with people. You would like to do networking with your students, with the professors, with the industry, and you are happy and ready to do innovative things, then FIM is for you. Then you should apply, and then we will be happy to see you in the next cohort. So that was my presentation. That was what we wanted to tell you. Now, as I said, we are here to answer your questions if you have some. Miranda, is there something in the chat what people wanted to ask?
Yes, I will share. Here we have some questions. I believe they're from Georgi Mukhogulashvili. Georgi, please, if you have any question, please go ahead and ask it right now. You have an opportunity to do this.
Yeah, hi, my name is Georgi. Yeah, I want to ask a question to Professor Luis. It was a really interesting presentation. I really loved it about LLMs and LMMs and all the stuff. I'm really interested into it. So my first question was about momentum and momentum. Yeah. So I believe that in the long term, securities adjust their prices to their intrinsic value. So based on this artificial intelligence and LLM, how do you think the time frame of adjustments will happen? Will it shorten the a period when this, for example, bubbles pop, or will it be the will it only lengthen the process? How do you foresee it?
Well, that's a fantastic question, and who knows? But I'll tell you what I think. Time frames are much shorter than they were in the past. You can say that this great, pick a company, Microsoft 2003. Microsoft in 2003 was a growth company. It had tremendous, financials. And then investors got into that knowing that sooner or later, Microsoft will be a fantastic company. It'll be, it'll make millions. And then, well, it's become the behemoth it is today. That's going to change. Not that companies with great financials will disappear or anything like that. No, this is going to change because the time frame in which these things will happen, the disruption that will happen is going to be so high that investors are not going to be so patient for the intrinsic value to be fully developed, because things could happen that can destroy companies or much, much earlier than traditionally has been the case. So if we were in a Warren Buffett, he says this all the time. He's the king of buy and hold. In a situation where holding a position for, say, 10 years means that in 10 years you'll realize value, 10 years is going to be such a long time that disruptions can happen before the 10 years. So we're going to see companies not being able to raise that full potential. Now, that's what I think, just given the compression of the timeframes. I could be wrong, but this is my hypothesis. I have nothing to validate it, but that's what I think about that. It's a very difficult question, and frankly, I'm not even sure that my answer is the right one.
Thank you. And I have another one. How do you think this artificial intelligence and LLMs will affect the rationality of the markets? Will it make more rational or more irrational?
Okay. I'm going to give you another conjecture. These are very good questions. Okay, I really don't know. I think it's going to make the markets more irrational. Now, we have not defined what does rational and irrational mean. Okay, that's I've been investing. I run an investment company for 20 years, and when you invest, what you're doing is you're selling the future, selling hope. It's all about the future. It's all about your expectation of what this company is going to do and this and that. And emotions are going to become so important. We already see that. People are trading on emotions today, okay? And I think that's going to go up. And AI is going to increase the emotional component of investing. GameStop is the perfect example. There was one investor that was rational. There were 1 million investors that were emotional. And the 1 million emotional investors won. I think we're going to see a lot of that, much, much more frequently, certainly than in the past. Could be wrong.
To follow up on that one, if the markets are very sentimental and very emotional, aren't these systematic trading systems and computers here to help us remove these emotions? Because we humans really like do mistakes because of the emotions, but aren't these computers and systems here to help us just prevent those emotions and just do only rational decisions?
Well, you're posing again a very important question, which is who's going to be the trader in the future? Who's going to be the decision maker? Is it going to be the computer? Is it going to be the person? If the person is the one making the decisions, which is my thesis, and the computer will just implement those decisions, the computer will be at the service of what the human wants. And then I think the emotions will thrive. I give you an example, another way. I just thought of that. These meme coins that are happening now, or these meme stocks, right? I think we're going to see a lot more of that because social media is great to just favor that. However, if in the end we just offload the decision making to computers, and it's computers just making the decisions on their own with very little human supervision, then we will have a different type of rationality in the market. It's going to be, then I don't know what the data these computers will use to make their decisions. We could see some reversion back to rationality, but it's rationality of a different kind because it's going to be a computer mind making a decision, not a human mind, and they work very differently, right? And the data inputs that computers will take will be very different. This already happened once. It happened on October 19, 1987. Computers were making decisions. That was the how can I say, it was the beginning of automatic option trading, and computers were making decisions. And what they ended up doing is they destroyed the market in one day. The S&P 500 dropped. Yeah, yes, the S&P 500 dropped 25% in one day, never seen before. Okay, that's what computers did. Now, of course, since then we have now checks and balances on this, because this could happen again, the flash crash again. And so there are things that we cannot predict, like, you know, the reversal to a situation like that. So that's why I like to continue to think that would be humans making decisions and computers extracting what humans think to advance and front run the decisions of humans. So from that perspective, I would see an increase in emotions. If in the end what happens is that computers just, you know, trade on their own decisions, then that will not happen. But then something else will happen, and I have no idea what I will look like, because I have no idea what a data computer models will be given. Very new. It is fantastic.
Oh, and is it only for institutions or also the retail investors?
Well, I think it's for everybody. I think institutions can no longer ignore the retail. It used to be said that the retail investor is always behind and is always somehow at the mercy of institutions, who are the ones who are the big movers. Again, GameStop proves that wrong. I think GameStop is a very interesting example. I don't think it's an exception. I think we're going to see more and more and more of that. And institutions are going to have to, I mean, the power of 7 billion people cannot be underestimated.
Thank you. Thank you. It was very interesting.
Good. Thank you,
Science
Giga,
fiction.
thank you for these really very interesting questions.
Yeah.
Very forward-looking. So no one of us can see the future, but as you can see, the future is very, very interesting. So do we have more questions? I do not see anything more in the chat. So there is a chance now. If you want to post questions, please just unmute and ask them. I wait for a few seconds, give you the chance to do so. If that is not the case, then I thank Luis again for his wonderful presentation. I thank Giga for these great questions. And I'll head back to Miranda. Maybe, Miranda, you want to say a few words on the application process before we finish?
So first of all, I would like to express my gratitude to all of you to present such interesting topics, and to our attendants, our invited people who express their interest to listen to this topic and extend their interest of FIM program. And what I can say is that we are open all the time. We can answer on all of their questions, and of course, anytime, any day, they can call me and ask all the questions that they are interested in. And the details about how to apply on the FIM program, they can see our webpage, kiu.edu.g, and all the information regarding how to apply on the program, they can see themselves. But if they need any guiding on this process, of course, I'm here and will support this process as well. Yeah, that's what I wanted to add.
Good. Okay, and just to add, the application process is open. So if you feel that you should and want to be a part of, as we call it, the family, then just apply. We are regularly ready to do the interviews and give you the information if we would accept you in the program, depending on your global test, which you have to do. But we are open. You can apply. You can do the interview. We will give you feedback, and we're happy to talk to you. If there is any question you have in advance, just contact us. We're happy to discuss and answer the questions. For all of those who are here, or those who see the video later, if you want to shape your future, and if you're open for us to let you help doing this, then be part of FIM, apply, and have fun together with us. and in your future. So thank you very much for today. And I hereby close the session, and thank you for being with us.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.